I'm saying to you is sometimes the church is not the easiest place to get on. And sometimes in the past, people will do something to you, say something to you. And deep down in your heart, you're saying, if not for church, if not for church, would you meet me in my normal environment? I go back to the way I used to be. If I wasn't humble, if while I am preaching I have two gorillas on the right and the left side of my pulpit, and you can't even come near me because they will say, yes, can we help you? Or by the time I finish preaching, I've been whisked out to I went to one church somewhere in North London, and the moment I finished preaching, the gorillas, about 7 of them, just stood in front of the podium and wouldn't allow me to leave the platform. And then the pastor who invited me to speak says, please come, sir. And I turned my back on the congregation. There was a trap door behind the pulpit, and when they opened it, it was a staircase down to the pastor's office. From there, we vanished from the people. I was not allowed to say hello to anybody. Preach and remain detached. So if people now treat me in a particular way or speak to me in a particular way, and then something in my head will say, oh, I feel sorry for myself. If I wasn't humble, you won't even be able to speak to me, let alone be over familiar that you are rude. And God will say, son, you are proud. How do you know what they said to you was rude if it did not trigger some arrogance in you? To know the Holy Spirit, you must be dead to self. And for you to be dead to self, God must show you what makes up self in you. And as he shows you, then God will send you people who will put it to the test. Money. Let me talk briefly about money before I continue with my note. What did I say I want to talk about? Very difficult, money. And the reason money is difficult is because of the gift God has given me. From a little child, I've had the gift of saving. It's a disease. I save. I just love to save. Right now, I put my money online. So every morning, I look. If it is 1 pence I cannot account for, I'll phone NatWest. So I look, and I look. I don't like to be in debt. I paid off my mortgage when I was 50. No debt, no loan. It's a gift. When my wife turns around and says, Brother Paul, and when my wife calls me Brother Paul, she wants to help me. The reason is, I have money, I earn money, my wife earns money, but it is my money that is the joint account. My wife, I don't touch her money. So when she has spent her money, then she looks over my shoulder and said, Brother Paul, what are we going to do with all this money? I said, we will look at them. Why don't you spend it? I said, I spend it. It's only that I don't spend as much as I have. I underspend, not overspend. I said, when the roof was leaking, it cost me $7,000 to mend just one side. When the gardener came and you want a good garden, I spent 10,000 pounds on the garden. That's why it's nice. 10,000. One tree was 300 pounds. You like trees, don't you? Yes. So I don't spend. When we go on holiday every year, 5,000 I spend. So because money is there, doesn't mean money is not going out, only because I don't spend what I don't have. Are you following me so far? Yes. So that's my problem. I'm able to save. Then somebody comes and tell me, lend me money. So I lend them. I've been lending people money for the past, let me see, 37 years. 37 years I've been lending people money. Only one has ever paid back. Only one. I lent some money to somebody, a lot of money. In the end, he turns around and he says, I knew an Alhaji who lent money to somebody and he never asked it back. I said, I'm not Al Alhaji. And you didn't tell me if you borrow, you won't pay back. I lent somebody else another lot of money. And he turns around and says, you need to pray and fast so that God will be able to help me to pay you back. I say, so I will lose my money and then I will lose my food? Then I lend somebody else some money. I deliberately am not quoting how much, just to know how much of my money is outstanding. I lend somebody else another lot of money. In Naira, 2.5 million. After 2.5 years, I said, brother, when are you going to pay? He says, by the way, how much was it? So I lent another person some money. And then I said, well, do you plan to pay? He says, pay? Pay? Are you not our Father in the Lord? Can a father be asking his children to pay back? I said, but that is a lie. You knew you weren't going to pay, and you said, lend me. So I learned to be a good African, to tell a lie in a truthful way. So when people come to me and say, Brother Paul, can you lend me money? I say, pray for me, oh. People can turn you into little deceptive Christian because they've been so unfaithful. You can't tell lie and say you don't have money. And yet if you lend, you know they won't pay. So I had to devise a means. If people ask me to lend them 5,000 pounds, I'll give them 500, and they'll be my friends forever. But apart from you, normally I devise a different way of telling people. I tell people, and you know it, that I have a television set. That until the television puts a cross in front of the screen. Have you seen it? You know, a line goes across, and then one goes from the top. When they meet in the middle, the thing commits suicide. That's when I will buy a new one. I don't have anything modern. Don't have sky, don't have floor. I have anything that is free with BBC, I take it. I don't pay for anything. And when that television, at the moment, is beginning to have some thick borders around it, and I know it's getting ready to commit suicide. It's only then I will buy. So when people now look at me, I tell them, that's how people have reduced me to pretending. And the reason I'm telling you this is to let you know that if you are faithful, God will bless you. God says, don't be a borrower. You will lend to many nations. If you borrow, you will come under the spirit of the person who is the lender. So if I tell you God has blessed me, don't come and say you want to take some of what I've been blessed with. Find out how God blessed me so you too can be the head and not the tail. That's the way forward. May God always make you forward ever, backward never. But in the meantime, makes it hard, because God will say, son, you can lend them, can't you? I said, yes, but they won't pay back. That's not your problem. Don't harden your heart. But if I lend them, they won't pay. I struggle to save. I go without things. When you go to some people's houses, their TV is so big. Even BBC TV is not that big. In a small house, rented apartment, and huge, everything huge, huge, huge. And mine is about to commit suicide. Their priorities are wrong. And then they take advantage of the rest of us. So how did I overcome the problem? I found a reason. That's why I could tell you openly. There's nothing you can do to me that can really reach me anymore. No matter how many times you fast and pray on me, it won't work. Because all the money I have hidden where even I cannot touch it. I only look. If I say I want to, they'll say, you can't. It is fixed. So I fix everything. The only thing I don't fix are little things I need for every day. Immediately I finish, I push the, it's only a button, it's only a mouse, isn't it? Not even a cat, a mouse. Put it, put it, put it, put it. And you know something? My wife loves me. And my children love me. My son, when somebody asks him, do you have a pension? He says, my father is my pension. Because my mother didn't finish everything she had, she left some for me. And I'm leaving everything I have to my own children so it will be better for them. They wouldn't have to struggle because I didn't struggle. So anything I have, I don't spend the money, I only spend what the money yields. I am kept by NatWest. Praise be the Lord. Now, let's look at watered down baptism. There are different views on baptism that can weaken its effectiveness. Maybe at the end of our session, if you have questions, I will invite some that I will try to answer, if possible. There are different views on baptism that can weaken its effectiveness. One is infant baptism. Some people think when you are baptized as an infant, you have been baptized. And so when they get saved, they feel there is no need to be baptized again. Well, what the Bible tells me is that before the people of Israel went through the Red Sea, they had already had the angel of death pass over them because of the blood. So you cannot experience the power of water baptism unless you have been redeemed by the blood of Jesus. Baptism only becomes meaningful. You cannot die with Christ and be buried with him in baptism unless you have his life in you through conversion. So infant baptism is no baptism because you did not confess Jesus Christ with your own mouth as your Lord and Savior. In addition to infant baptism, then you have those who, through the teaching program of their church, go through phases of progressive development in their spiritual journey. And there was a person who, when she was in the womb, her mother prayed for her and blessed her in the womb every day, because the parents were born again and active in the service of the Lord. And so when the lady was born, she was born into a dynamic Christian family. There wasn't a time she never believed. She've always believed in the scriptures and the way of salvation. But through her church training program, when she was 13, 14, it was time to be baptized in water. And many of their fellow teenagers were baptized. But when we were talking through the different experiences the lady was going through, she attended my leadership seminar. And then she came back to me and said, "I'm confused, Brother Paul. I wasn't baptized as an infant. I was baptized and I knew what I was doing. But the Egyptians are still all over me. Things are not the way they should be. So what is wrong? If what you say is true, the Egyptians I see today, I should see them no more. So let's sit down," I said. "When were you baptized? 13 or 14. Did you know what you were doing?" She said, "I went to all the different classes and we went to all the different stages of development in the church. There was never a time I didn't believe. I got all the prizes for memorizing scriptures, for answering questions, for doing tests, exams, all the certificates we're supposed to get in our church, I got them. So why are the Egyptians still around?" I said, "Think. When you were 13, 14, did you meet Christ or did you just go forward?" Now you come to think, now you say, now I come to think of it, she said, "I remember. It's all coming back to me now. At the age of 17, we had a visiting speaker, a dynamic evangelist. When he preached the gospel that I was familiar with all my life, something in me said, I know the truth, but I don't know Christ." Inside me was a yearning. There was an emptiness. And she said, at the age of 17, I went forward. And when I gave my life to Christ, I experienced the joy of salvation. So I said, "Now, since you got born again, have you been baptized?" She said, "If you mean meeting with Christ at 17, no, I've not been baptized since I got truly born again, and I knew it. I didn't know I wasn't born again until I was born again." And thereby you have people who more or less drifted into leadership in the church, whereas in the past their experience of Christ was not certain when they were baptized. You find some people, to be specific, at least in the Nigerian culture, context, people who are ministers in the Full Gospel Businessmen's Fellowship. And they give their hearts to Christ in the fellowship, and they become presidents and so on of the fellowship, of the chapter. And when they join a church, they just become leaders in the church. Whereas before they join the Full Gospel, they may have been baptized as infant or baptized in a church where they didn't emphasize making decisions for Christ. And they just drift into leadership. But they realize that the Egyptians have not left them. So such people, I've had even people who have been in ministry for 20 years or more who have been baptized. And you may say, have they been baptized again? No. They've now been baptized. Before, they just went to the swimming pool. Because if you're baptized properly, you will experience something dynamic that you will know the power of it. Others corrupt baptism by saying baptism is unto salvation, that unless you are baptized, you cannot be saved. That is not true. The Bible says, he who believes and is baptized shall be saved, and he who does not believe shall be condemned. It doesn't say he who does not believe and is not baptized shall be condemned. So baptism is after salvation, is not part of being saved.
The New Covenant Church invites you to worship with us in one of our churches. We have branches throughout Britain and the world. For your nearest church or for further information, telephone 0208 696 7337 or 0207 231 9817. Or write to us at 21 to 29 Pendennis Road, London, SW16 2SS.